Dean Martin took soldiers to his secret ranch. They couldn't believe it was real. The echoes of war and a star's whisper. The year was 1947. The world, still reeling from the cataclysm of World War II, was slowly finding its footing. In America, the boys were coming home, but home often felt like a foreign land after the horrors they'd witnessed. For many, the transition was a silent battle, fought in the quiet corners of their minds, far from the cheering crowds and ticker-tape parades. Among them were Sergeant Frank Miller, a stoic infantryman from Ohio, whose eyes held the distant look of someone who had seen too much. Corporal Benny the Beat Rodriguez, a quick-witted Brooklynite who'd served in the Pacific, his humor a thin veil over deeper anxieties. And Private Eleanor Vance, a nurse who had tended to the wounded in field hospitals, her gentle demeanor masking an iron will forged in fire. They were three disparate souls, brought together by the shared crucible of war, now navigating the bewildering landscape of peacetime. Frank, Benny, and Eleanor found themselves in a rehabilitation center in Southern California, a place designed to mend bodies and minds, but often falling short on the latter. The days were long, filled with physical therapy, group sessions, and the gnawing uncertainty of what lay ahead. Hollywood, a glittering mirage just miles away, seemed a world apart from their stark reality. They knew of Dean Martin, of course. His smooth voice, his effortless charm, his rising star alongside Jerry Lewis. He was the epitome of the post-war American dream, a symbol of the carefree joy they felt they had lost. He was a crooner, a comedian, a man of endless charisma, but to them, he was a distant figure, a face on a movie poster, a voice on the radio. Then came the letter, not a formal, official communique, but a cream-colored envelope, surprisingly understated, delivered by a man in a sharp suit who simply stated, "Mr. Martin requests your presence." Inside, a handwritten note, elegant and concise. "To my friends, the brave men and women who served, I'd like to offer a small token of my gratitude. A week away from it all. My ranch. All expenses covered. Discretion appreciated. Dean Martin." Disbelief rippled through the small group. A prank? A mistake? Why them? They were not heroes in the public eye, just ordinary soldiers trying to put their lives back together. Yet, the invitation felt undeniably real, imbued with a quiet sincerity that cut through their cynicism. The rehabilitation staff, equally surprised, confirmed its authenticity. Dean Martin, it seemed, had a reputation for quiet acts of generosity, often away from the glare of the press. He had personally selected a handful of veterans from various centers, seeking those who might benefit most from a complete change of scenery, a respite from the clinical environment. The journey began a few days later. A sleek, black Cadillac, driven by the same impeccably dressed man, picked them up. As they drove away from the familiar, sterile confines of the center, a nervous excitement began to bubble. Benny, ever the talker, tried to lighten the mood. "So what do you think, folks? Is this where we get to meet Frank Sinatra and swap war stories over martinis?" Frank grunted, a rare smile playing on his lips. Eleanor, usually reserved, found herself gazing out the window, a flicker of hope in her eyes. The city lights faded, replaced by the sprawling darkness of the California countryside. The driver offered no clues, only a polite, "We're almost there." The air grew cooler, the scent of pine and dry earth replacing the city's exhaust. They were heading somewhere remote, somewhere truly private. The mystery deepened with every mile, building a quiet tension that was both thrilling and slightly unnerving. What kind of ranch did Dean Martin own? And why was he inviting them, complete strangers, to share it? The questions hung in the air, unanswered, as the Cadillac continued its silent journey into the night, carrying them towards an unknown destination and an experience that would forever alter their perception of Hollywood's golden boy. Don't forget to subscribe to see more incredible stories about Hollywood's golden age. The Cadillac veered off the main highway, turning onto a narrow, unpaved road that snaked through a dense grove of ancient oak trees. The moonlight, filtered through the thick canopy, cast dancing shadows that made the path seem even more secluded. Benny leaned forward, peering through the windshield. "Well, this ain't exactly Sunset Boulevard, is it?" he quipped, trying to mask the growing sense of wonder and apprehension. Frank remained silent, his gaze fixed on the winding road, his military training making him acutely aware of their isolation. Eleanor, however, felt a strange sense of peace settling over her. The air was fresh, carrying the scent of wild sage and damp earth, a welcome change from the antiseptic smell of the hospital. After what felt like an eternity, the car slowed, approaching what appeared to be a solid rock face. There was no gate, no visible entrance, just a sheer wall of stone. The driver, without a word, pressed a button on a small remote. With a low, hydraulic hiss, a section of the rock face began to slide inward, revealing a dimly lit tunnel. The soldiers gasped. This wasn't just a private ranch. This was a fortress, a secret lair straight out of a pulp novel. The Cadillac glided smoothly into the tunnel, which was surprisingly well lit and paved, leading them deeper into the earth. The air inside was cool and still, carrying a faint, earthy aroma. The tunnel opened into a vast, underground garage, gleaming with polished concrete floors and housing a collection of vintage cars that would make any enthusiast swoon. A sleek, silver Mercedes-Benz 300 SL Gullwing sat beside a pristine 1940s Cadillac Series 62, among others. But the garage was merely a prelude. Another hidden door, disguised as part of the rock wall, slid open, revealing an elevator. "This way, please," the driver announced, his voice echoing slightly in the cavernous space. The elevator ascended smoothly, silently, for what felt like several floors. The anticipation was almost unbearable. What lay at the top? A simple house? A grand estate? Their imaginations ran wild, fueled by the mystery and the sheer theatricality of their arrival. When the doors finally parted, they were met not with a building, but with a breathtaking vista. They stood on a wide, stone terrace, overlooking a sprawling valley bathed in the soft glow of 1,000 strategically placed lights. Below them, a magnificent Spanish-style hacienda, all whitewashed walls and terracotta roofs, stretched out, surrounded by meticulously manicured gardens, sparkling fountains, and what looked like a private lake. Beyond that, rolling hills disappeared into the distant, star-dusted horizon. "Welcome to the hideaway," a smooth, familiar voice drawled from the shadows. Dean Martin emerged, a glass in hand, a relaxed smile on his face. He was dressed casually in slacks and an open-collared shirt, looking even more effortlessly charming in person than on screen. He wasn't surrounded by an entourage, just a quiet butler who stood respectfully in the background. "I hope the journey wasn't too arduous. I like my privacy." He winked, a glint of mischief in his eyes. The soldiers were speechless. The sheer scale, the hidden entrance, the unexpected beauty, it was all too much to process. Benny, for once, was at a loss for words, his jaw slightly agape. Frank, usually unreadable, had a look of genuine awe on his face. Eleanor felt a tear prick her eye, overwhelmed by the sudden shift from their grim reality to this impossible dream. It was more than just luxury. It was a sanctuary, a place that felt utterly removed from the world, a secret garden where the echoes of war seemed to momentarily fade. Dean Martin, the public persona, was known for his easygoing charm, but this private side, this elaborate, almost fantastical retreat, hinted at a depth and a generosity they were only just beginning to comprehend. The hideaway was not just a ranch. It was a statement, a testament to a life lived on his own terms, and now, for a brief, unbelievable moment, they were a part of it. Like this video if you love discovering hidden Hollywood secrets. Dean Martin greeted them with a warmth that was both genuine and disarmingly casual. "Please, make yourselves at home. Consider this your home for the next week." He gestured towards the sprawling hacienda. "Dinner will be served shortly. In the meantime, feel free to explore or just relax. Whatever your heart desires." He then introduced them to the butler, a kindly man named Arthur, who would see to their every need. With a final, reassuring smile, Dean excused himself, leaving them to absorb the shock of their surroundings. Arthur led them inside, and the interior of the hacienda proved to be as breathtaking as the exterior. High, beamed ceilings, terracotta tiles, and whitewashed walls created an atmosphere of rustic elegance. Plush leather sofas and antique wooden furniture filled the spacious living areas, adorned with vibrant tapestries and original artworks. but it was the details that truly captivated them. A grand piano sat in one corner, its keys gleaming under a soft spotlight. A massive stone fireplace dominated another wall, promising warmth on cool desert nights. Every room seemed to flow seamlessly into the next, each offering a new discovery. Their individual suites were beyond anything they could have imagined. Each featured a private balcony overlooking the valley, a king-sized bed with crisp, high-thread count linens, and a bathroom larger than their entire living quarters back at the rehabilitation center, complete with a clawfoot tub and an array of luxurious toiletries. Eleanor, walking into her room, felt a wave of emotion wash over her. After years of makeshift showers and communal latrines, the sheer indulgence of a private, opulent bathroom was almost too much. She ran her hand over the smooth marble countertop, a small, disbelieving smile on her face. Benny, ever the curious one, immediately began exploring. He discovered a fully stocked bar in the main living area, complete with every liquor imaginable, and a professional-grade billiards room. Frank, usually reserved, found himself drawn to the library, a quiet sanctuary filled with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, leather-bound volumes, and comfortable armchairs. He picked up a book, its pages smelling of old paper and wisdom, and for the first time in a long time, felt a sense of calm settle over him. Dinner was a lavish affair, served in a dining room with a long, polished mahogany table. Dean joined them, making easy conversation, never once mentioning the war or their pasts, instead focusing on light-hearted anecdotes about Hollywood, his love for golf, and his passion for Italian food. The meal itself was exquisite. Homemade pasta, succulent roasted meats, fresh vegetables from the ranch's own gardens, all accompanied by fine wine. It was a feast, a celebration of life and abundance, a stark contrast to the bland, institutional meals they had grown accustomed to. After dinner, Dean led them to another hidden gem, a private screening room, complete with plush velvet seats and a massive screen. "Thought you might enjoy a picture," he said, dimming the lights. He put on a classic comedy, and for the first time in years, the three soldiers found themselves laughing, truly laughing, without reservation or guilt. The sound of their laughter filled the opulent room, a melody of healing and release. It was more than just a movie. It was an escape, a brief, precious moment where the weight of their experiences was lifted, replaced by pure, unadulterated joy. The ranch wasn't just luxurious. It was a carefully crafted haven, designed to soothe the soul and remind them of the beauty and simple pleasures that still existed in the world. Dean Martin, the entertainer, was also a healer, using his extraordinary wealth and his even more extraordinary heart to offer solace to those who needed it most. Comment below, what's the most surprising thing you learned about Dean Martin? As the days unfolded at the hideaway, the soldiers began to shed the invisible armor they had worn since returning from the war. The ranch was a world unto itself, a meticulously designed sanctuary that offered both opulent comfort and surprising opportunities for quiet reflection. Beyond the main hacienda, they discovered a network of trails leading through fragrant citrus groves and olive trees, perfect for long, contemplative walks. There was a state-of-the-art golf putting green, where Dean would occasionally join Frank for a friendly, low-stakes game, offering tips with a casual grace. Benny, with his boundless energy, found himself drawn to the Olympic-sized swimming pool, spending hours perfecting his dives, the sun warming his skin, washing away the chill of past memories. Eleanor, however, found her solace in the ranch's hidden grotto. Tucked away behind a waterfall, accessible only by a winding, stone path, was a natural spring-fed pool, surrounded by lush ferns and exotic flowers. The air was cool and damp, the sound of the cascading water a constant, soothing murmur. It was here, in this secluded haven, that she allowed herself to truly relax, to let go of the tension that had gripped her shoulders for so long. One afternoon, Dean found her there, sitting by the water's edge, her eyes closed. He didn't intrude, simply sat a respectful distance away, humming a soft tune. When she opened her eyes, he offered a gentle smile. "Peaceful, isn't it?" he murmured. Eleanor nodded, a rare, genuine smile gracing her lips. "More than I thought possible," she replied. Dean Martin, away from the cameras and the crowds, was a different man. He was still charming, still witty, but there was a quiet thoughtfulness about him, a genuine empathy that resonated deeply with the veterans. He never pressed them for war stories, never asked about their traumas. Instead, he created an environment where they felt safe enough to share if they chose, or simply to exist in peace. He would join them for meals, for a game of cards, or simply sit with them on the terrace, sipping a drink as the sun set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. He spoke of his own humble beginnings, of the struggles he faced before finding fame, reminding them that success, like healing, was often a long and winding road. One evening, after a particularly lively dinner, Benny, emboldened by a few glasses of wine and Dean's easygoing nature, finally asked the question that had been on all their minds. "Mr. Martin, why us? Why go to all this trouble for a bunch of grunts like us?" Dean paused, swirling the ice in his glass. His gaze drifted to the distant hills, a thoughtful expression on his face. "Because," he began, his voice softer than usual, "someone did it for me once. Not a ranch, not a star, but a kind word, a helping hand when I was down and out. And because," he continued, turning his gaze back to them, his eyes warm and sincere, "you boys and girls gave everything. You fought for us, for this country. The least I can do is offer a little peace, a little comfort, a reminder that there's still beauty in the world, and that you're not forgotten." His words hung in the air, simple yet profound. It wasn't about charity. It was about gratitude, about a shared humanity that transcended fame and fortune. It was about understanding that even the brightest stars had their own shadows, their own battles, and a deep appreciation for the sacrifices made by others. The tension that had subtly lingered in the air since their arrival finally dissipated, replaced by a profound sense of connection and understanding. They weren't just guests. They were, for this brief, precious time, friends. Hit that subscribe button to never miss exclusive celebrity stories. The week at the Hideaway passed in a blur of sun-drenched days and star-filled nights. Each soldier found their own rhythm, their own path to healing within the ranch's embrace. Frank, who had arrived with a rigid posture and a haunted look, now walked with a lighter step, his shoulders relaxed, a genuine smile appearing more frequently. He spent hours in the library, losing himself in books, rediscovering a love for learning that the war had extinguished. Benny, the boisterous Brooklynite, found a quiet confidence, his humor still sharp but now tempered with a newfound introspection. He even tried his hand at painting, inspired by the vibrant colors of the desert landscape, a side of himself he never knew existed. Eleanor, the compassionate nurse, found her own wounds beginning to mend. The grotto became her sanctuary, and the quiet conversations with Dean, filled with shared silences and understanding glances, helped her process the emotional toll of her service. On their final evening, Dean hosted a farewell dinner. It was less formal than the first, filled with laughter, shared stories, and a palpable sense of camaraderie. He raised a toast, not to himself, but to them. To Frank, Benny, and Eleanor, he said, his voice rich and warm. To your courage, your sacrifice, and your strength. May you find all the peace and happiness you deserve. The clinking of glasses echoed in the dining room, a sound of gratitude and hope. As the night deepened, they gathered on the terrace, gazing at the vast, star-studded sky. The air was cool, carrying the scent of night-blooming jasmine. Dean, ever the entertainer, picked up his guitar and began to sing, not one of his famous hits, but a soulful, melancholic tune about hope and resilience. His voice, smooth as velvet, filled the night, weaving a spell that transcended the moment, touching something deep within each of them. It was a private concert, just for them, a final, intimate gift. The next morning, the black Cadillac returned. The goodbyes were quiet, heartfelt. There were no grand pronouncements, no promises of future meetings, just a firm handshake from Dean, a warm embrace for Eleanor, and a look in his eyes that conveyed more than words ever could. "Take care of yourselves," he said simply. "And remember, the Hideaway is always here, in spirit." As the car wound its way back through the hidden tunnel and onto the main road, the soldiers looked back, trying to catch one last glimpse of the secret ranch. But it was gone, swallowed by the landscape, leaving no trace of its existence. It felt like a dream, a beautiful, impossible dream. Yet, The changes within them were undeniably real. Frank carried a newfound sense of purpose, Benny a creative spark, and Eleanor a quiet strength that had been rekindled. The hideaway wasn't just a place. It was a state of mind, a reminder that even after the darkest storms, there could be sunshine, beauty, and unexpected kindness. They returned to their lives, forever changed by the week they spent with Dean Martin. They never spoke of the ranch to outsiders, honoring Dean's request for discretion. It remained their secret, a shared memory of a time when a Hollywood legend, known for his carefree persona, had quietly opened his heart and his hidden paradise to three weary souls, offering them not just luxury, but a path back to themselves. The experience became a whispered legend among them, a testament to the unexpected generosity of a man who understood that true healing often began with a simple act of human connection, far away from the world's prying eyes. And though the war had left its indelible marks, the memory of Dean Martin's secret ranch and the peace they found there became a beacon of hope, guiding them towards a brighter future. Like and comment if you'd want to visit a ranch like this.